sandwiches, ice cream, coffee and snacks, and many other pleasing treats. Our foods are fresh and tasty, our drinks satisfying and refreshing. They're so good.
Welcome to Average Joe's Drive-In.
And now, on with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 98 of Average Joe's Drive-In. I am your host, TJ Washburn, and back again after, I think it was like August of 2017 when we recorded the first time, is Mr. Corey Norman. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, TJ. Thanks for having me on.
Hey man, thanks for coming back on the show. I know you've been a busy guy. You're doing your regular job. You're doing your recording music videos and movies and working for the Maine Film Commission, and you're back playing music again. You've got a lot going on.
Dude, I don't think I could survive any other way. So
hey, I hear you. You got, I always said about myself, it's like jack of all trades, master of none, always got to stay busy. It's that sort of thing.
I can totally relate to that. It's good to be busy, and it's good to, just kind of dabble on a lot of different canvases so you don't get too bored with life. So.
Oh yeah. It's very easy to get burned out, I think, sometimes when you're, especially for, I think more so maybe for creative types than maybe everybody, but I think for creative types, it's very easy to get burned out on one medium if you don't have, for a lot of us anyway, because I think a lot of us do dabble in many things instead of just one,
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We've kind of stepped back a little bit from, a lot of the more long form narrative stuff, which has been a bit refreshing. Last project we jumped into was a music video, for The Contortionist that'll be coming out, early 2019. And it's funny because we had been shying completely away from that medium after burning ourselves out. So, it's really nice when you can kind of step back and explore some of these other channels to kind of return to your roots eventually and find a new passion for it. So.
Yeah, and you've done several videos with The Contortionist too, as well, haven't you already? Or is this your first one?
No, this is actually our third video for the band. When they put out, their last release, well, I guess 2 releases ago now, Language, we did, the Language 1 music video, and then we also did the Primordial Sound music video, which it's kind of funny because we weren't planning on doing a second video.
Right.
But when we were out in, Indianapolis filming, the band for Language, the label came back and basically put us in a position where they said, hey, you have to do a second video.
That's always good.
It's comical because they wanted this whole, white out background. We have no budget to do it. So I don't know if you've seen the video at all, but we're in this, what appears to be an all white room. And we are literally on a wraparound porch, on a farmhouse in the middle of cornfields. And those are just white sheets all around the band. Like, it's kind of ridiculous to see the actual production for that versus how the video turned out.
Yeah,
so.
I think I saw that when it first came out, but it's been a while. So I would have to go back and revisit the whole thing. So.
Oh, understandable.
So, before we get really talking about movies and all that stuff, and I wanted to ask you, because it is movie related, obviously I'm pretty sure I know why you ended up doing the Maine Film Commission thing, but how did you get approached, to do that?
Yeah, well, it was kind of out of left field. I got a call back in April from our acting film commissioner, Karen Cardbury-Warhola, and I met her right when she first took over the position. In fact, her very first week on the job, she helped me with a Zyrtec commercial that I was production coordinating.
Big fan of Zyrtec. I use that myself.
And from there, it's like we stayed in touch through, Hanover House and our various films. And, because we were always out and really trying to kind of put Maine filmmaking on the map when we were doing these various conventions and whatnot. And then through the teaching, I think she just felt like I was a good ambassador for film. And so, yeah, she called back in April. I had to file a tremendous amount of paperwork. And, after several months and going through the channels and getting vetted by the governor, they brought me on board, and we just had our first meeting at the end of last month, and it's I think going to be a really cool process. The commission hasn't been as active as it's been in years past, and I think the team that they've assembled right now to try to push Maine filmmaking to a new level is pretty extraordinary. So,
well, that's good. That's because I think Maine it's such a beautiful place. There's so many great, just, natural locations for people to see and be able to shoot at. And I think being able to be part of the commission, because, from what I've always understood about it, maybe that's completely wrong, but part of the whole Maine Commission thing is to get people to come to Maine and film, correct?
That is, it's actually funny. The Maine Film Commissioner is an employee of the Maine Board of Tourism. So it's actually, very heavily associated with that. And, it's great because there are a couple different facets as to the job of the commission. One, they want to bring in, the creative economy into the state, which would generate work for not only film folks, but also the hotel and restaurant industries and a lot of our other vendor services here in the state. But another big thing that we've actually been talking about, which is kind of a secondary thing, is this whole notion of film tourism. Because people want to visit locations where movies are filmed, and so beginning to really start to market that avenue of stuff, is a viable resource as well. I know when Haley and I tour around to the film fest, we try to make it a point, no matter which area we're in, we try to find stops that relate to some of our favorite films that we can kind of stop off and visit on the way. And I guess that's just really becoming a big draw to different states right now.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Maine wants to get on board with that as well.
I know a friend of mine just went to, Texas. And one of the things that's kind of a big thing down there right now is the barbecue place that's actually
totally
from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They actually have a barbecue place there now. And he didn't quite get to go because it was a little far for him for where he was for his conference, but there's places like that, and that stuff is starting to pop up, and people are kind of, gravitating towards, especially, the diehard film fans. He was discussing about, there's a friend of his that goes and walks the steps of where they shot The Exorcist, that sort of thing, like every year when he goes in,
awesome.
Things like that. So there's definitely places in Maine. You could go to I'm not sure if the building is still there, but like the old mill where they shot, Graveyard Shift back in the day, or, that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, most definitely. In fact, it's funny. For my sister-in-law's birthday last year, I put together like a 34 stop tour starting in Durham going up. That's just, all Stephen King inspired locations. So, it's funny every year when I bring my students up to Bangor for the, Maine Mayhem, film festival screening that they do at Bangor Art Exchange, we always stop off at, Mount Hope Cemetery and do the little pet cemetery thing. So. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, I think, especially when it involves Mr. King, you've got pretty much, I think he is so well known worldwide that when you mention Maine, I think for a lot of people, that's the first thing they think of is Stephen King.
Pretty close. I mean, when we tour the film fests, we'd tell people we're from Maine, and yeah, number one was always Stephen King. Number two was, oh, you guys have lobster, right? And then number three was, do you guys have running water?
We just got that electricity back neck a couple weeks ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's funny there, but King is definitely like, that is what people think of when they think of Maine. So, at least in the horror world.
Oh yeah, well, exactly. But I think that's why, you know, a lot of like novels and stuff and films set in Maine, that are horror centric, it's kind of almost become a thing simply because of Stephen King.
Well, it's true, and it's actually sad because, you know, they wanted to come here to film. They actually went as far as to location scout all through Bangor. And that's why, you know, with the location they ultimately settled on, that's why it felt so reminiscent, you know, like the Barrens, like, really did feel like the Caduskeg area.
I will honestly say when I watched that originally, when they're coming down, like I think they were coming down on their bikes or something, or there was a drone shot, and they're coming down. It feels like they're coming down State Street Hill into downtown.
Yeah.
And I actually thought it was Bangor. Like, you know, it was kind of weird. And then I found out after the fact that it wasn't. It was like in Vancouver or something.
Exactly. Well, and it's funny, like I said, they knocked it out of the park, with the scouting, but like, so, you know, they were really pushing, King was really pushing for us to film here, and it actually came down to a film incentive bill, because that's the biggest reason right now that a lot of those big productions can't come here. And it's interesting, and it all comes down to the notion of incentives, and I'm not sure how familiar you are with like that process or how it works.
I'm not, but I think people, you know, especially because this is such a movie centric podcast, you know, I think it would be something people would be interested, you know, to hear about some of the viewers,
sure,
listeners, because, you know, it's something I don't really know about it, but it's a term that I have heard thrown around a lot by filmmakers and different people about, well, you know, we went and filmed in such and such a town in Vancouver because we get great incentives to go up there and, you know, to go film and blah, 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 and the crews are great and this and that. And you know, but a lot of times that's one of the first things you hear them talk about, like on commentaries and stuff about what they're filming, is we got tax breaks and incentives to go film here.
Yeah, well, and that's ultimately what it comes down to, because you got to think about it. Filmmaking is a business first. Being on the creative side of it, that's the part that always breaks my heart a little. You know, but no, it's a business first. And it's funny because over the last 20, 30 years, you can really track where film production is booming based upon the incentives. So like right now, when you think like where is turning out the most films in the country, a lot of people recognize that Georgia Peach, right? You know, Atlanta is just, it's this kicking. It's actually number 2 in the country right now.
And that must have a lot to do with The Walking Dead. That must have really kind of kicked that in the pants when that show started.
Yeah, actually, do you know the comedian Tyler Perry?
Yes, I know who he is. Yeah.
He is why, Atlanta, actually got kicking. Even before The Walking Dead. And this actually was all news to me. I just learned this at the last meeting. But he really advocated, and pushed not only on the creative side and the studio side, but pushed, quite a bit on the government side. And so he helped usher in the incentives that they have down there. Now, what incentives actually are is they're a tax rebate. So what they say is if you come into our state and you meet, you know, this specific criteria, once your production has come in, spent a bunch of money, we'll essentially give you a tax credit at the end. Right now, Georgia, if you show up and you do your production, your pre-production, and your post-production all in Georgia, and you slap that Georgia Peach on the end of your film, you get almost a 40% tax credit. So you can imagine if you're coming in and you're going to spend $100 million, are you going to go to a place that's going to give you that rebate or a place that's not?
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
You know, a couple of years ago, Massachusetts, really stepped up their game and they put a 25% tax, incentive in place. And it's crazy. Last year alone, they came in, I think it was like $870 million in production that they brought in. Yeah, that's extra revenue that they brought into their state. So, you know, a lot of people, at least on the political side of things, get a little worried about incentives because they're like, how are we going to pay this rebate, et cetera, et cetera. And the thing is, it's simply a tax credit that comes at the back end. So it's not even like you have to come up with this cash to simply pay out.
Right.
It's just a tax rebate on all this money that's coming in that wouldn't be coming in otherwise.
Right. So you're really, essentially, you're not losing anything by having it. You're only going to bring money that would never be here in the first place.
That's exactly what it is. And you think about it, so that money isn't just for, your crew, but it also is, again, where you're getting your food and you have to put everybody up for the lodging and your gas and all the other things.
But again, that creates local jobs because you've got to have catering, your
Exactly.
food service, you've got to hire your local, if it's a union job, you got to hire your Teamsters to come in and do your, do your construction and this and this and this and this. And yeah, I don't think most people, I think that's one thing a lot of people who aren't maybe involved or have a really heavy knowledge of film even consider. The fact that if you ever watch a movie, a bigger budget movie or whatever, or even a smaller budget movie, you look at the credits and there are hundreds, if not thousands of people that are involved in a film, your gaffers, your construction guys, your set decorators, your catering, everything. You've got to have
your accountant.
Oh, exactly. Jobs people wouldn't even associate with film still have to be, they've got to be done by somebody. So,
Exactly. And it's funny because we actually have incentives in place right now in Maine, and they're not horrible. You've got to come in and you have to spend a minimum of $75,000 to qualify.
Yeah.
And right now, 60% of your crew has to be from the state, which I think that's one of the most important things in any film incentive bill is guaranteeing that a big portion of your crew is going to be from here. Because, the last round of incentives that did fail, that wasn't necessarily a big stipulation is, a lot of these productions can come in, but if you're bringing all these people in from, out of state, it's not exactly, as beneficial to us as it could be. So we are working right now, the board, not the commissioner because she's not allowed to be involved in those things. But we are working with a handful of filmmakers right now to write a new set of film incentives, or a new film incentive bill, I should say, that's going to address a lot of these little issues. And we're really hoping in doing so to create kind of an apprentice, system as part of it, just to help build the creative economy in the state and to really help get all of our resources lined up so that once these productions start coming in at the level we're hoping they do, we'll have a trained workforce really just ready to, jump in on this work. It's funny, Massachusetts right now has been doing so much work that they're shipping in from everywhere. If you're coming up from, they're pulling in from Georgia and from New York, and basically there's so much work that they need the hands. And I really feel like here in the state, we could use it. And then another big push we've been talking about is, for a long time, we were a very, industrious state. We had our paper mills. We had, a lot of these places that, there's a big handful of them that are sitting dormant right now. And a big model we're talking about is kind of coming in and doing some economic redevelopment and using these spaces that are sitting there, unused, and really starting to use them for sound stages and things like that once these incentives
Well,
go
they would
through.
be
So,
ideal because most of the machinery, especially the paper mills, a good chunk of them, the machinery's all gone, or it's just empty buildings.
Exactly. And the great thing is, when any time a production comes into these buildings, they're not coming into them as is. They're never going to be suited, like right off the bat. They're never going to be suited for what they need. So the production companies are going to be putting a lot of money into redeveloping a lot of these businesses. And then when the production is done, we're left with these buildings that, can be repurposed for other things. So it could really lead to a huge economic boom coming out. you think about when other films have come up here in the last couple of decades, you know, when Empire Falls came to Skowhegan, I mean, they left with like a $4 million building that they left behind that they built for use on production. So, you know, it is a big benefits to the communities as well. So
I think it's, you know, as a film connoisseur and lover and, you know, somebody that's just interested in all that. So I think that's a great thing. I think it would be good for the state. It's good for, you know, younger people that want to maybe get involved with the film industry side of things. Maybe it's a foot in the door for some of them to get a chance to see how a film production works, you know, because we do have some great schools up here, you know, for film that will teach film and the production sides of things. But because we're Maine and we're very isolated, you pretty much have to leave the state to do stuff. If you want to be a regular working, you know, somebody that works regularly in the field. Yeah,
it is a little sad, you know, because by day, you know, I am a film professor down at Southern Maine Community College, and I would say about 70% of our young people leave the state every year, you know, to get that gainful employment. Now, that's not to say that you can't make a living here, but it's such a niche kind of thing here in the state that you can definitely get by and you can survive, but so many of our folks are just going down to Massachusetts, you know, because for every 1 or 2 days of, you know, of work up here that you can get, you know, down there you can work 7. So it's crazy there.
Now, not to get too political on the political side of things, I'm not
sure.
You can either not comment on this or comment on this, because I usually avoid anything political like the plague. But do you think with the new governor coming in that this is going to make things a little easier for the Film Commission than our current administration?
I do, and I will say I try to avoid politics at a lot of costs. I will say the last film incentive bill we had did make its way up to the governor, and we would have had it here in the state, but there was a time when there were a whole bunch of bills that were forgotten or the deadline was missed to file. Yeah. And our film incentive bills were unfortunately caught in that crossfire and were one of the bills that were forgotten to be filed, which is why it wasn't filmed in Bangor.
Yeah.
The new governor, Janet Mills, I was actually a big advocate for because, Janet, while, you know, serving, and I can't remember if it was on the House or the Senate, actually drafted film incentive bills. So she is a huge advocate for the industry here in Maine, and, you know, has openly said that she is willing to do whatever she can to help support the growth of that industry here in Maine. So,
and this would be the perfect timing because we are getting, like, whether you want to call it the second or third renaissance of King right now, where there's, you know, he's kind of found that new life with a younger audience that maybe wasn't as familiar with his stuff as people our age, you know, or whatever. So now we're getting that second boom of King. And I know it seems like he's always been a big proponent of trying to get his films made in Maine when possible.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge stipulation. I know he was really advocating for Castle Rock to film here in Maine as well. And,
they filmed that in Massachusetts, correct?
They did. And it all came down to those incentives. But no, he's been a huge advocate and I don't want to be misquoted, but I'm pretty sure the last King film that actually shot up here was Thinner. Back at a time when we still had some incentives in place. So
I was going to say that the last one that I remembered that I could think of that I remember was shot in Maine was Storm of the Century. They shot that down, I think, in like
Maine.
Islesboro or Cranberry Isle, down around there.
Fair enough. Then that might be. I think then that was after
come out
Thinner.
Right after Thinner, or right about the same time. But it's been a while.
No, totally.
So yeah. So, getting on the conversation. Now, this is fascinating, and I could talk about this with you forever, but I don't know if everybody else listening is gonna maybe be so enthralled with it as us. But so you well, before we talk movies, I want to talk to you about music, because this is how you and I become friends years ago. Was
most
music.
Definitely, yeah.
So the band you were in when I first met you, and back in 2004, 2005. So just recently kind of started playing again.
Yeah. It was kind of funny how it all came together. It literally started from just a random, I can't remember if it was our old singer or guitar player, but somebody, had a few drinks and threw up kind of one of those random Facebook posts, that turned into like 400 comments between all of us. And the next thing you know, we were in just a group chat, and, within a day of this post going, we all said, hey, it's been a long time. We should just get together and hang out and see where it goes. And now 8 months later, we've been tracking up a storm, and, we're slowly kind of working on getting a new album together, and then playing some shows. So
that's awesome, man. It always makes my heart happy when I see my friends that I made through music still, either going back to it, or because bands, I guess this is something I always said about bands. It's like being married to 3, 4, 5 other people.
That's true.
Bands are great, but they're also can be very volatile and contentious. And, it's the creative nature of the beast, I guess, especially seems to be, musicians anyway. It seems to be one of those things. So, there's a lot of ups and downs, man. I know I've had guys in bands that I'm friends with that I didn't talk to for a long time, and then, kind of whatever, and it happens. It's just one of those things. But I think as we get a little older, it's a little easier to be like, man, that was stupid. Why were we arguing about something like that? Or,
Dude, you just hit the nail right on the head. I mean, when Unscarred broke up, we all went our separate ways, and there was a lot of bad blood, and it was bad blood for the world's stupidest reasons.
Oh, yeah.
And, it's funny, when we got back together, it was just like, instantly, that was one of the first things we talked about, and it was like, it's funny how much you grow up. When we were younger, it's like we were, 22, 23, we were just partying a crap ton, and, we were always on the road, we were just sick of each other, I think, and, there was a lot of stress and pressure that comes in when you're just, you're trying to make it and putting everything into that. And it's kind of nice now when we're revisiting it. We're all married. Most of the guys have kids, and it's a very different mentality. It's not, hey, we're going to go on the road for weeks at a time. It's, hey, let's just make music again, because that's what we miss doing. Let's hang out and, we'll play a couple of shows, but we're not trying to make it. And it's,
I think it's
nice.
That definitely, the whole not trying to make it and be a rock star per se thing really changes a lot of the mentality. At least I've found when it gets to that point, it's like, I'm doing this because I enjoy playing music and I enjoy hanging out with my friends. When you're not always going, well, we've got to do something this way, or we've got to do this, and this so we can tour, or we've got to do this and this, and you're going to have to quit your job because it's,
exactly.
And it comes up, and that, when you start getting to that point, that stuff starts to come up. Now, I was a little older. I mean, there was things, and I'm sure you know about some of them, because I'm sure you and I have talked about some of this before, and I'm not going to mention it all now, but there's things, that come up, like with the last, what I would call serious band that I was in, where it was, they wanted us to start touring and going out for 3 weeks at a time, and then 3 weeks off, 3 weeks on, to get established, and they had bands they wanted us to play with. But it come to the point where I was at that age where if I had been 6 or 7 years younger, I probably wouldn't even have hesitated. But being at that age and with my job and this and that, it's like, is it worth it for me to go do that every night for a possible chance we might make money down the road, but I know we're going to get gas money and some, like, reheated pizza and maybe wings if we're lucky, you know?
Oh, that would be real lucky right there. Wings?
We did have a food rider, so, with our management company, so we were actually getting fed when we went out of state and stuff.
Oh, see, you're lucky. We were just getting drunk, so.
Yeah. Well, I don't really drink, so that was never a big issue for me, but, you know, I think they might have had some, you know, drink ride, the complimentary 2 drink tickets, and I'd give mine to somebody, you know, type deal.
See, that's all they'd ever give us. It would be like, here, you guys can drink all you want, but if you want to eat, man, I don't know, you better sell some CDs.
Yeah, that was the thing. But a lot of the times, these shows, what we were getting for gas wasn't even covering the cost of the gas. It would get us, like, down but not back. So, you know, it's like, we better hope we sell some merch, boys, because we got, you know, a 5-hour drive ahead of us after the show. So. But yeah,
most stuff.
You know all about it, man. You know all about going to those shows. You go into those shows where you've got $10 in your pocket and you're like, we better sell some CDs because we don't have enough gas to actually get home, you know?
Exactly. And then all of your fate is in the hands of promoters, and it's like, either it's an awesome show or you've just driven 6 hours to play for 2 people. So.
Oh, I've been on both sides of the coin on that one, you know. You show up to a place, we showed up to I'm not going to name the venue, but, you know, we showed up to a venue in New Hampshire, and the guy, the promoter was supposed to, and being a promoter myself and booking shows for a lot of years, this really pissed me off. But the guy didn't book any local support.
That's horrible.
It was a tour package with us, Salvo, and Widow Sunday.
Okay.
And, you know, Widow Sunday's got a pretty good following in New England, or they did especially at the time
totally,
we did.
Yeah.
So it's like, dude, if you put a couple local acts on with that package, I mean, I wasn't expecting 150, 200 people, but I expected 30 or 40, you know. And the dude booked us on what was traditionally rap night. Okay, never told us that, never put any local support, and added like 3 other out-of-state bands on the show. So we all show up, and not a single person other than Dave O'Brien from Rat Pack Records was the only one that actually was there, and because at the time Widow Sunday was on his label, and he showed up. Everybody that come through the door was there for rap night, and as soon as they heard us and all the other bands playing, because we were playing, you know, super heavy music, they turned and left. So we never had a single person come through the door the whole night. That was the start of our 3-day mini tour, you know.
That's rough, man. We learned, you know, after doing it a while, like, we would try to deal a lot more with local bands when we could, and like, you know, it was funny. You know, we would never turn down an out-of-state gig in Boston. Like, I remember doing, you know, Middle East in Boston on a Monday night for like 400 people, and just being blown away because you think Monday night show, there's going to be...
It's the Middle East,
though,
no
dude,
one.
You know? Yeah, fair enough.
That place is synonymous with awesome music. So, you know, if you're getting on a show there, there's probably a chance that you deserve to be there. So, you know.
Fair enough.
You know, it's like the Palladium in Worcester, you know.
Most definitely. Yeah, we played the Palladium once, right, kind of towards the end of our stuff. That was definitely a cool venue.
Yeah, I only did a handful of mass shows, and both the ones that we did play were always really awesome, but they were always booked through bands we were friends with, and they played and set them up, so they were always, you know, decent shows.
That's the way to do it, though, right there, though, you know?
You know,
local support.
That show in Manchester, there was nobody at. The next night we played at Sammy's Patio in Revere, and, which I don't know if you guys ever played Sammy's or not, but.
No, not that one.
Oh, Sammy's is awesome. It reminded me like a slightly bigger version of like the Ale House.
Okay, totally. I missed that place.
So, and I used to love the Ale House. We played there many, many, many times. But
Metal Mondays?
Metal Mondays, oh yeah.
I love Metal Mondays.
And we played on the weekends too, but we did a lot of Metal Mondays there. And but yeah, we played at Sammy's the next night, and the place was, you know, pretty packed. And then the final show we did at this little venue in Rockland that was like a co-space op type thing, where they did a bunch of stuff, but they did shows and we had a good turnout, you know. But it was like that first show, it was like that automatically gets those wheels spinning, going, holy crap, I hope they're all not like this, you know. Cause
yeah, that's not a good way to start a road stint.
We're not going to be eating much this weekend if, you know, nobody shows up to the shows. But yeah, so that's cool, man. I'm very excited to hear, you know, what you guys end up putting out and recording, and hearing you guys back together again. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like I said, it should be cool. We're gonna, I think we're gonna start throwing some stuff up, and you know, kind of as we got started, we re-recorded almost all the back catalog. So I think we're gonna just start leaking some of that stuff out there, just because, you know, the new stuff I think is much more evolved and a little less, you know, early 2000s dated. So there'll definitely be a bunch of new stuff kind of coming out, I think, over the next couple of months. And it is funny, we did have to change our name slightly.
Yeah.
You know, that happens. You know, you go away for the better part of 14 years, and
I was going to say it's been a while, but
you know, you come back and there are several national bands or international bands with multiple albums and Spotify accounts with your name. So
I dealt with that when I was in Salvo, because there is an artist whose last name is Salvo, who's from like Argentina or something, and he's quite popular. Very nice guy. I talked to him a few times, but we were like, dude, you know, could you please have them tag your full name and stuff? Because every time that our name come up, it would come up with his. So you had like this jazz music, this weird like electro jazz, and then like thrash metal.
That's so funny.
But our albums come up when people would search for Salvo, because it come up under his last name, and he's like, I've tried. He's like, they won't change it. He's like, so everything is tagged as just my last name and not the full name, and I don't know and we were like, okay. It was like, cause at the time, you know, we, like I said, we had been working on some stuff with a management company and all this, and we were doing, so it was like we were trying to, you know, take care of some of that stuff before it got to the point where it would be more of an issue, you know. But it's just, it's weird nowadays, especially with all that stuff, and where before it wasn't quite as international, I think it is now.
Well, you know, it's amazing how quickly you can get around all that simply by slapping the word "the" in front of your old band name, though. So
yeah. Or the opposite, or taking the off and
putting Exactly. It's a whole different world then.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we were dealing with like mp3.com and early MySpace when we were doing that stuff, you know, so back in the day. We're dating ourselves, but that's okay. It's, so yeah, that's very cool, man. I'm excited like I said, I'm very excited to hear it. So is there anything, like any websites, before I forget, so you make sure you can plug it, where can people check it out and follow it if they want to hear some of it?
So to be honest, right now we're still in the early stages of getting the press out. So, you know, I'm still gonna date myself, because we just have a Facebook. All my students like to make fun of me and say that I'm too old because we just use Facebook.
You've got the
we
Facebook.
have the Facebook, exactly. But we're just the Unscarred band, I think, on Facebook. But if you look for the Unscarred, we'll show up.
Cool.
But there will be a site and all that stuff in the coming months once we get ready to release the album.
Yeah,
so.
We just need to do like an Unscarred Soundbender Tomorrow's Tragedy show, like get those.
I love it.
I'm all for it.
I love it. We're in. We'll do it.
So yeah, well, that would be great. That would be like a total flashback, man. That would be awesome. This is. I think this coming year would be Tomorrow's Tragedy's 15th anniversary. So
yeah, the timing sounds about right. I think we're in the same general ballpark. So.
Yeah, and So yeah, but yeah, besides that, so also, because like I said at the top of the show, Corey is a busy, busy man with his toes dangling in many different waters. Your werewolf film, White Drift, is coming out on a new anthology.
Yeah, that was like super random.
And that was also perfect timing, so.
It was meant to be. It was meant to be. It's funny. So, being a filmmaker, when you do a feature, it's great. You have a lot of good avenues for getting them out. But a while ago, we found that we'd tour for all these shorts, and then when we were done touring for them, we didn't just want to put them up on, YouTube and stuff, because I feel like, in our current culture, you start throwing up a lot of videos online and people will watch them once and they almost kind of devalues them, in a little bit. They become a little more expendable.
And I think they expect them to constantly be free and there's no, I'm going to have to pay to watch something they did. Wow.
Well, exactly. So, a couple of years ago, we were approached by a distribution company called Ruthless Pictures. And, they were in the business at the time of doing anthologies, and they were kind of scooping up things, from various festivals. So, we started with them. We did a couple of releases through our Image Entertainment. They got some release on Redbox and whatnot. One was called Invoking 2.
Which I have on my shelf behind me.
Awesome. The second one we did was called Monsterland, which was put out, in conjunction with Dread Central. And so just, over the years, we kept licensing them, other films. Right now we have one called Charlotte that has our short Tickle on it that's up on, Hulu and Amazon. And another one called The Witching that we did the wraparound for that's up on Amazon. And so one of the last films we licensed them was, White Drift, which we did back in 2016. It was a fun kind of take on a werewolf. We did a full body animatronic werewolf, which, was most of our budget. But I got a chance to work with a bunch of people I really respect, an actor named Sean Carmichael from Boston, an actress that we brought up from North Carolina named Christy Ray, who is in probably my all-time favorite indie horror film, Pieces of Talent, which if you haven't seen, you've got to see it. It's so beautiful. In that kind of gory, I'm going to kill everybody kind of way.
Yeah, but there's a beauty to the splatter, Corey. I mean.
Oh, exactly. Well, and then, then we lucked out. I have a good friend named Damien Maffei, who's up here. He's a transplant from New York. And so we worked on this. And then not long after, I recorded a couple audition tapes for Damien. And he went on to be in this movie that it had some mild box office success, for horror. In fact, it was probably one of my favorite horror films this year because it was so fun. And that was The Strangers Pray at Night. He's the main man in the mask, or Baghead, or however the heck they credit him. And so it was cool. He was in this film with us, as well. So yeah, it was pretty rad. They bought it and they licensed the film, about a year ago, and we had no clue when it was going to be released or whatnot. And then we got word yesterday, that it's going to see release on January 8th. It's already up for pre-order on, Amazon. And, I've been told it's going to come to Walmart and Best Buy and all that stuff too, as well right around that time. So
that's awesome.
I thought that was pretty rad.
Congratulations on.
Thank you.
I always get super psyched when people that I've known for a long time and I know have put a ass ton of work into, perfecting their craft and doing stuff. When they start, seeing some success with it, it's always makes me feel good. It's like, I always, I'm pretty much, I've always felt like a bit of a cheerleader when it comes to my friends, man. I've never been one to be like, God damn it, they got success. It's like, awesome, good for you, congratulations,
Oh, well, totally, man. We, in the creative community, it's like, there are so many other people that are going to get down on us, regardless. So we got to support one another.
Exactly. I think it's a terrible old saying, but it rings true. You get more flies with honey than you do with shit. It's just one of those. I don't don't know if that's a Maine saying or just a saying, but it's one of those things, you know. It's like I never understood, like, dude, I'm a competitive person, but at the same time, I'm not going to begrudge anybody for having success when I know they've worked really hard at it, you know.
Oh, most definitely.
It's so, I think it just leads to more. I look at it in the way, and I hope other people look at it this way. When someone else has success, it only shines light on other people around them. Take for instance, you know, the early 90s Seattle grunge scene.
Mm-hmm.
One band had success, that shine light on these bands. These bands had success, that shine light on these bands. And it just snowballed into this thing. So now it's a footnote in history as a whole era of music. You know, the Seattle grunge sound. It's, you know, it's that whole thing. But it come out because somebody had success. You know?
Exactly.
So I always say be happy for the people that achieve success. And if you work hard, maybe you're going to get noticed too, and you have a better chance because now people are going to look, you know.
Exactly. Well, you know, and it really, that is the best mentality. It's like, you know, the people that you support, you end up collaborating with, you know, I can't tell you with these anthologies, you know, we started getting some, you know, success. And one of the first things that the distribution company said is, hey, you know, what are your friends doing? Do you know any other good shorts? And so we were able to recommend, you know, 4 or 5 other filmmakers that now have work coming out on these. Like, you know, on this anthology, we're really good friends with 2 of the other filmmakers. And it's, you know, I don't know. It's cool because it leads to opportunities for everybody. And, you know, why let jealousy get in the way?
Oh, exactly. I will be jealous, but in a good way. I'm jealous because, you know, but not like in a mad sort of way. It's just like, oh, damn, you know. I'm jealous. But so, you know, so you've got all this stuff going on and have you found time to watch many movies this year, I guess, with everything you've got going on here?
You know, I think you have to find time to watch, you know, movies. What kind of a fanboy would I be, TJ, if I didn't?
Well, you know, I know, like this year myself, I set up a little home theater down in the basement with, I got a, you know, 150-inch screen down there.
Mm-hmm.
I've got my own little theater, dude, and it is the greatest, like, and I'm not saying this, I don't want people to think I have this big elaborate setup downstairs. I mean, it's a, for lack of a better term, it's a very, poor man setup, I guess. You know, I built the screen frame out of small PVC pipe. It's not a real high-end projector, dude, but it's so awesome for me. I got some chairs down there. It's all set up. I got a surround sound hooked up. I've got, you know, all my DVD player, my VCR, my Blu-ray. I can hook up, you know, my Fire Stick so I can watch Prime and Shudder and Netflix and, you know, I have my own little hideaway to go down and watch films, and it's kicked myself in the ass a little bit for cinema. It really has. Because it's got me excited to watch stuff because I can just walk downstairs and it's almost like being in my own little movie theater, you know?
Oh, totally. I think I'd watch probably 5 times the movies I do now.
I found that I do, you know, I watch a lot of movies anyway, but I found I watch a lot more now that I have that set up down there.
I don't blame you.
So, yeah. So was there any, you know, what were some films this year that you watched? I mean, it doesn't have to be horror. It can be anything, you know, that you watched that you really thought were awesome and other people should check out.
Sure. Well, oh goodness. On the horror side of things, I definitely enjoyed The Strangers Pray at Night. I know a lot of people kind of crapped on that one. But I enjoy the departure from the original because I actually wasn't a fan of that one. And, you know, felt like I got a nice, fun slasher. Loved A Quiet Place.
Yo, me too. That was a fun theater experience.
You know, it's like I'm so used to going to the movie theaters and having somebody be, you know, kind of a jerk at some point during the theater, experience. And like, I've never been in a movie theater that was that quiet.
Oh, mine was packed. I mean, it was sold out. We had to sit in the front row, and I hate sitting in the front row because you're so close to the screen.
Oh.
But
I don't think we could go to movies together, man. I'm the opposite.
I want to sit as far back in the back as I can, you know, but I don't personally go to the theater as much as I used to because half the time it just somebody's talking or somebody's on their phone.
Exactly.
It's annoying. That was part of the precipice for me building this little theater in my basement, you know, was so I don't have to deal with that and I can have my friends over and we can watch stuff, you know. My cousin Rick has been coming over and him and I have been slowly going through the new season of Mystery Science Theater downstairs. You know,
nice.
And it's awesome because we're watching them on the big screen for the first time, you know. But yeah, like The Quiet Place was so much fun in the theater. And I mean, nobody talked. Nobody got their phone out. I mean, it was just, I think everybody was scared to make noise because they were
Dude, I had a bag of peanut M&Ms and I just put the first one in my mouth and it was just like, you take a bite and then you're like, oh no, that was so loud. And then so you prolong it. It's like you chew once and then you wait 5 seconds and then another bite and then, so it would be like a minute before I could get a single M&M down because you don't want to make that noise.
Oh, exactly. And one thing I will say about The Quiet Place, I adore the movie. I've watched it a couple times since it's come out on home video. It's still an awesome movie, but it's definitely not quite the same without that theater experience. I don't think
no.
It's still it's still an effective movie and it's a really fun movie, but seeing it in the theater really put that film in a whole different light. And it wasn't so much even just about the movie. It was about the experience.
Oh, without a doubt.
And you don't see a lot of films like that anymore where it's about the experience over the movie, you know?
Oh, no, exactly, man. Exactly. And another one, like, I don't know, I guess this was my year of like, the movies everybody raved about, I was just kind of meh about. And then the ones that everybody crapped on tended to be the ones that I think I liked the most. And like, you know, one of those that my wife and I waited on because we were huge fans of the franchise was The Predator. And everybody crapped on it so much and we had so much fun. It was like, I just thought it was a schlocky good time from beginning to end.
Yeah, see, I'm on vacation next week and that's one of my films on my list of films that I'm going to be renting and watching because I want to make sure I like it. You know, I'll purchase it eventually if I like it, but because it's been mostly negative. I've heard a few people like, yeah, you got to take it for what it is. It's campy and just, you know, that sort of thing, but it was fun. And then other people like, oh my God, you know.
Oh, but dude, there were some great kills, you know, and, just like the supporting cast was on point. I didn't even realize from the trailer that Thomas Jane was in it.
Oh, really?
And like, yeah, dude, and he's so good. And like, essentially the group that they put together is the same group from The Chopper in the first one. Just, and that was the thing. It's like, it was such a great homage. Like, literally at one point, they say, get to the chopper, but without the Schwarzenegger, like,
without the thick Austrian accent.
Yeah. But it was just, you know, it was fun. So like my wife and I going into it, we went in going, all right, you know, this is a Shane Black movie. This is going to be like, you know, he's going to pay homage, but it's like, we know what to expect. We know that this isn't going to be like an Oscar winning movie, but it's going to be fun. And if you go in with that mentality,
you know, it's going to be over the top. You know, it's going to have lots of explosions. You know, there's going to be lots of really kind of witty one-line dialogue.
Without a doubt.
It's a Shane Black movie. If you've seen any Shane Black movies, the guy's good at what he does, but it doesn't stray too far from the path, you know, most of the time.
Exactly. So like I said, I thought that was a movie that got a lot of unwarranted hate. Like, trust me, I saw movies that were way worse than that this year.
You know, another Shane Black film, not to get off this year's films, but, you know, another Shane Black film that I don't think was tremendously well received, it's probably my favorite Shane Black film is A Long Kiss Goodnight.
Oh,
next
great
to Predator.
film.
Next to Predator.
Great film.
Next to Predator. But I adore The Long Kiss Goodnight.
Dude, I'm right there with you. It's a solid movie.
I think that is such an underrated film. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Sorry to cut you off again, but again, it's one of those things.
Oh, no worries.
It's like, ooh, I get excited, and I just thought of that. So, yeah. So, outside of the horror, the horror and action stuff, was there any, good comedies you saw this year or anything like that,
That's a great question.
I'm putting you on the spot here.
You are putting me on the spot. I'm trying to think of what else I watched, because we watch a lot, but, what stood out? That's a good question. Man. I'm totally on the spot. There were comedies that I thought were better than I expected. Like Jumanji was actually better than I thought it was going to be.
Same here. I expected that to be terrible, but it ended up being a lot of fun. Again, The Rock is so personable. It's hard for him to, it's something he's in to be completely bad because it's something
true.
he just seems like somebody you'd want to hang out with in real life that would be fun. So, and it seems to come across that in his performance, but it seems to always come across like that in his performances, as far as I'm concerned anyway,
As long as he's not taking himself too seriously in a film. I like the fact that he chooses these roles that kind of makes fun of himself almost in like that one. Those are, I think, where he shines the best.
Dude, I revisited Doom this year.
Oh, it's one of my wife's favorites.
And I hadn't seen that in a long time because, that was before Dwayne Johnson was really Dwayne Johnson on screen.
Exactly.
So it was so weird to see him playing kind of more of a against type character.
Yeah.
It was weird. But yeah. Yeah, I couldn't think of movies honestly, I'm the same way though if you ask me to just name movies off, because I can't remember what years half these films come out now.
Well, exactly. Well, and that's the thing, right? So I would start listing off movies from 2017 or 2016 or and I found too, half the time when I watch movies now, I'm revisiting stuff from, a lot of stuff from the 80s. I had never watched Society, and that was one for me this year that I'm like, holy shit, this is great. Or not the Mike Dowdy Trick or Treat, but I watched the old 80s Trick or Treat this year and absolutely loved that.
I love the soundtrack to that. Fastway rules. Come on. If you want to hear the soundtrack to Trick or Treat, just YouTube Fastway Trick or Treat soundtrack. So you'll thank me later. If you like 80s hair metal, you will love that soundtrack.
So what are your thoughts? So yesterday we got a new trailer. We got the new Neil Marshall Helms Hellboy movie. What are your thoughts on that? Have you checked that out yet?
I did. I watched it a couple times because I'm a huge Guillermo del Toro fan of those films especially. And, they were fun. They had that Guillermo style, that the way he shoots. They're beautiful films for what they are.
His art direction is awesome.
This is probably going to come out weird, however I say it, and people are going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? He reminds me a lot of Argento in the way that he uses color in his films.
Oh. Totally. He takes a straight nod from Argento's color palette.
Very much. And I think film, especially horror fans recognize that. You look at The Shape of Water. That's not a horror movie, really. Other than it has a fish monster. But
exactly. That's a good love story.
Oh, God, I love that. That was one of my favorite movie of probably 2017. I adored that film.
Yeah, phenomenal.
That and Three Billboards.
Dude,
great movies.
Both of those, you add I, Tonya to that list, and those are probably my three favorite of last year.
I watched those two in the same day, Shape of Water and Three Billboards. So yeah, that was a good doubleheader. But the way he uses, the colors, the aquas and the contrast of colors in that is just awesome. But yeah. So I was curious, and Guillermo really has kind of a specific style of writing. It's very, very pertinent to what he does for film. So I'm used to that Hellboy now. I've never, I'll be the first to admit, I really don't know that much about the Hellboy comics.
Okay.
So I was never like going into the original movies. I wasn't like, I'm seeing this because I'm a Hellboy fan of the comics. I'm seeing it because it looked kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I love Ron Perlman. So, Ron Perlman I always enjoy the hell out of anything with Ron Perlman in it. And we get Doug Jones and Ron Perlman in the same movie. So, great. But so going into the trailer, I was like, I'm either going to really think this is going to be fun or I'm going to absolutely hate it. Whether it would be warranted or not.
Totally.
I made sure I watched it. The first time I watched it, I was like, I'm really underwhelmed. The second time I watched it, I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I'll at least go see it, but I'm still kind of on the fence about it, man. And I like David Harbour too, so.
Mm-hmm. David Harbour's great.
So he's a great actor, but there was some things about it I liked. Some things I'm like,
Well, with something like that, it's got to be hard though, right? Because Del Toro's got such a style that I think.
But I like Neil Marshall. I mean, I'm a fan of Neil Marshall. So
Dude, Dog Soldiers, Descent, like.
Oh yeah, Dog Soldiers especially for me. That's like one of my favorite werewolf films ever. So
I'm hoping he brings a touch more of the kind of the horror and the gore, which we got a little hint of that from the trailer. So like,
well, one thing in particular, you do get to see like a full blown headshot in there,
right?
Which
so
you don't see in
trailers. At least that.
Yeah, you don't see that in trailers very often. So I'm like,
No. Exactly. So I kind of felt the same when we watched it. It was like the way we're leaving it is, I think it's going to be fun.
Yes, I think it will be fun, but I'm on that. I was talking to a friend of mine about it. I said, and I mentioned it because today on something else too, which I want to ask you about after.
Yeah.
We'll kind of end the show on that note.
Sure.
I'm cautiously optimistic, I guess.
I'll take it.
I'm not going in going, this is going to be the greatest thing ever, but I'm going to give it a chance. Because I think it's going to be a good, especially with him directing. He's a good director, has a good cast. I think we'll be okay, but it's just, I'm kind of salty we didn't get that third Hellboy movie that they talked about for so long. So, with Ron and Guillermo back. So,
Fair enough. Let salty be as salty as, I guess.
Yeah. So, okay, now, are you a big fan of the Critters franchise?
Yeah, I have to censor myself. Yes. Unbelievably so.
Okay, so you're right there with me.
Yes.
What do you think about this Critters reboot?
I've seen I've seen something, but I don't know a whole lot about it. If anyone wants to make a Critters thing, whether it's good or bad, I will be there to watch it. That's
kind of my feelings. Again, like I said to this person, I'm cautiously optimistic. Let's face it, Critters 4 is not a good movie.
No, but it's still Critters, man.
But it's still Critters, and I can find some enjoyment in it. Even though it's not, dude, it has Brad Dourif in it. It's Brad Dourif. I can deal with pretty much anything Brad Dourif is in to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's corny. It's a Critters movie. I never found any of them scary. They were always.
I don't know, man. When I was a little kid,
the first
the Critters
one scared the shit out of me because I think I was about 8 when I saw that for the first time. So
yeah, but see, that's the thing with Critters, right? If they give me a good film that looks awesome, sweet. If they give me a film that's cheesy as hell, awesome. Either way, I'm on board.
The first two I just adore the hell out of. They're some of my favorite movies, ever. I've probably rewatched those. I've been seriously eyeing that Shout Factory, Critters box set as much as I'm pissed off at Shout Factory right now. But, I've been looking at that box set on Blu-ray, all restored with a ton of extras. It's like, ooh, even though I have all 4 on DVD, I think that's...
Yeah, but it's Blu-ray, TJ.
Blu-ray.
Think of that theater in the basement.
4K restorations off the
negatives. Think of that theater.
Yeah, I know. But it's like $70. It's a lot of money, but, but it's all, I'm waiting. I'm going to pull the trigger eventually, but, so yeah, I was just curious about that because we just have really started hearing, they're just starting to film it, but I've seen a few productions, not production stills, but like makeup test type things of the creatures.
Yeah.
And I thought the creatures looked great. I thought the creatures looked great. I don't believe the Chiodos brothers are back doing the creatures, but maybe, I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up because I know I had heard some talk about a new Killer Clowns movie too, which is also a Chiodos brothers thing.
Yeah.
But they were the directors behind that. I know they just did the effects on the Critters films.
Yeah, a new Killer Clowns. I've been hearing about that one going, and that'll be a blast as well.
I'm a huge fan of that film. That is just stupid fun. It's
exactly. That's the way horror should be, man. I don't know. Give me creatures all day long. That's what makes me a happy horror fan.
I've always been that. I love gore. I love Italian films. And I love just bonkers gore, but I've never been one that's been super into like the super mean-spirited horror.
No, I want a good fun creature, whether it's serious or whether it's campy like Terror Vision, like bring it. I'm on board. You've got me hook, line, and sinker.
Absolutely, man. Well, hey, we've got to kind of get things winding down here. Before we do that, I'd like to thank my sponsors, the Maine Cannababes, www.mainecannababes.com. The website is back up now. I confirmed that today. It just relaunched. The 2019 Cannababes calendar is available for pre-order. So just go on there, order it. Money goes to some great charitable causes. There's also lots of great information about cannabis and cannabis resources in the state of Maine. They are doing a calendar release party January 5th. So if you are in the Bangor, Maine area, you can go to that. There's more information on that on the website. I don't want to tell you the wrong stuff. So go there and look and, let's get so much traffic there the site crashes. And that would be great. That's a good problem to have. So anyway, I'd like to thank Corey for coming on and hanging out and chatting. It was good to catch up with you, man. I'm proud of you and all the stuff you've, been accomplishing and all the stuff you've got coming ahead of you. And I know we can expect a lot of very cool things from you in the future, I'm sure.
Awesome. Well, thanks, dude. As always, it was a blast talking, and I look forward to coming back again one day.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to leave you on this note, kids. Remember, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and I will see you sexy animals on the flip side.
It's intermission. Rise and stretch time. Time to refresh yourself and visit our snack bar. Got a yen for hot popcorn? Your favorite soft drinks are sparkling cold. The juicy Frank sizzling hot. There's delicious coffee, freshly brewed, and all kinds of ice cream and candy to tempt you. Showtime will be announced loud and clear to get you back to your car in time. So stretch your legs. Come to the snack bar now.
Thanks for listening to Average Joe's Drive-In. If you'd like to talk movies or contact the show, add our social media pages. You can add us on Facebook at Average Joe's Drive-In Podcast, on Twitter at TWJ Author, on Instagram at Thomas Washburn Jr. You can also hit up www.thomaswashburnjr.com for more information about the show and related links. If you'd like to support the show, you can buy TJ's books on Amazon. Just type in Thomas Washburn Jr. in the search. Books are available in Kindle and paperback formats. If you have Kindle Unlimited or Prime, you can read the books for free and money will be earned by the pages read. It doesn't cost you anything and it supports the show. Until next time, you've been listening to Average Joe's Drive-In.